From Sarah's death in the pilot of The Last of Us to Rick waking up from a coma in the pilot of The Walking Dead, today I'm gonna discuss which show had the better pilot episode.
You killed her.
Baby, I'm sorry.
So let's start off with The Last of Us. Instead of showing us Joel and Ellie right away, the pilot episode went for a rather scary tone. And what makes it so realistic is that it starts with a cold open set in 1968. The opening comes after an epidemiologist talks about the possibility of a fungal outbreak happening in the future. Now, the video game fans might find this a big change, but it helps the viewers who are new to the show understand the world better. And with a length of 5 minutes, this dialogue does more than just tell the audience what's going on. It's also the kind of cold open that makes it easy for fans to tell what's coming next. After that suspenseful introduction, the opening shows us Sarah, Joel's daughter. The episode then follows the structure of what fans will remember as the game's first level.
You're not scared. Then unlock me.
How about we start with thank you
For what?
for saving your life?
Now, there are two ways to make this father-daughter relationship stronger. You see, once the epidemic starts, the tensions reach a very dangerous point where they could explode. And after the episode shows that the year is 2003, putting it in the current year helps connect it to the real world and makes the future seem scary. Also, seeing the breakout through the eyes of a family makes the premiere feel more real. But the final blow is watching Joel deal with losing Sarah. And I think if the show didn't start with the talk show, this dark turn in the story would have been too much for viewers to handle.
How old are you?
14?
Wow. Well, I mean, you got some balls on you, sister.
Thanks.
On top of that, the lead performances are also a big part of this episode's success, along with its strong start in terms of style. Honestly, I feel like I'm looking into their real lives when I watch Joel and Sarah interact. I'm telling you, when people care about that, Sarah's death hits them much harder. And Pedro Pascal's Joel shows the heavy cost with a harsh and realistic emotional response. At this very moment, the video game version of Joel comes to life. This is also a great way to get to know his world and Bella Ramsey's Ellie. Even though the Fireflies don't want to keep Ellie, she still makes a good first impression. Her survivalist attitude makes for funny one-liners and a great way for her and Joel to disagree.
Thing is I didn't hear that guy coming. He shouldn't have had to have, you know,
Well, you're glad I did, right?
when you're just a kid.
On top of that, it gives Joel some unexpected and serious emotional depth when they finally start their journey. Also, when Joel is caught by a Fedra agent, his trauma takes over and he beats him brutally. I think this beating makes perfect sense because Ellie finally sees how far Joel is willing to go for her. And through Joel's uncontrolled rage, this violent outburst brings Sarah's death full circle for viewers. But while the pilot episode of The Last of Us was special in its own way, I think the greatest strength of Days Gone By is its restraint. Frank Darabont, who directed the pilot episode for The Walking Dead, doesn't try to get people's attention with much action and bloodshed. Unlike The Last of Us, if we're comparing. Instead, he keeps things simple, and from a plot point of view, not much happens, but we learn about the characters. We spend almost the whole episode with Rick, and Darabont keeps the external world to a minimum. I think this makes the episode a great character piece that shows us more about Rick through what he does than what he says. On the one hand, he's a police officer who knows a lot about weapons and how to stay alive. On the other hand, he just woke up from a coma in this new world around him. His backstory shows us that he lives by a strict set of rules, but all of a sudden, he finds himself in a world where those rules no longer apply. This creates an interesting situation where he's both the best and worst prepared person for a zombie outbreak. But I think one of the smartest things Darabont did did was throw him right into the world's end after he woke up from a coma. Not only does it let him get right to the point, but it also makes Rick the perfect stand-in for the audience. And as he spends most of Days Gone By trying to figure out what happened while he was gone, he does this by putting together pieces of his missing months at the same rate we do. What's interesting is that even after the show went downhill, Rick kept drawing people in, and it's impressive how much Darabont and Lincoln got right with his first appearance. Now, Rick doesn't meet many living people in the pilot episode, but Morgan, who makes the episode even better, is one of them. When we meet him, he lives in a broken down house in Rick's old neighborhood. Whatever it was before doesn't matter, but now it's a safe place for him and his son Dwayne. And it's his knowledge of the outside world that helps him guide Rick through this hellish new world. When Rick asks him why he hasn't moved on, he doesn't give a straight answer, but when he does, it's the most devastating moment of the episode. You see, his wife has turned into a zombie, and now she wanders the streets outside the house as a living reminder of how bad he has done. What's so intriguing is that Rick's worst fear is Morgan's secret, and now that he knows it, he can return to looking for his family. They say goodbye with the promise to see each other again. It's unclear if either of them thinks that will happen, but the hope is there, and, well, they could use some hope right now. But I think the next scene is one of the best things Darabont has ever done. Morgan, as we know, is too troubled by his past, so he picks up a gun and tries to kill his zombie wife, but he can't get it done, and instead, he just breaks down. It's very sad to watch and shows how bad a zombie outbreak would actually be. You see, these people aren't just mindless killers whose only purpose is to give the living something to shoot at. Instead, they are all little tragedies with their own stories to tell. Darabont then cuts between Morgan's trouble and scenes of Rick running out of town and coming across a zombie without legs. Rick cries again because she had to go through this, and then he shoots a single bullet through her head to give her some peace. But you know what's amazing? The contrast between the two scenes, and together they give the impression of a show that would never let simple thrills overshadow the human misery of such a situation. And it's fair to say that even after almost 200 episodes, The Walking Dead has never had a better episode than this one. With that being said, the question still lies: which show had the better pilot episode? You see, the whole pilot episode of The Walking Dead was just pure confusion, which is why I think it was better. You're just as confused as Rick and want to know what's going on. Now, I probably like The Last of Us more than anyone else, but I think The Walking Dead pilot was way ahead of its time. It was so great that just talking about it made me want to watch it again. And while Pedro Pascal is greatness personified, nobody can beat Rick Grimes' dreamy eyes. And the last shot, where he sees Atlanta in the distance and knows it's been taken over, but also knows he's the kind of person who has to go find his family, is just the perfect cold opener for a zombie TV show.